Thank you for joining us for the second episode of the Vesten Cast. I'm here, Adric Donovan.
With Hendrik Skollickson.
And we have a special guest today.
We do.
And would you like to introduce yourself? We have SHIKIMO, Ryan.
Hello, I'm SHIKIMO. I'm on the label.
Yes, he's on our label, Vesten Records. And we are very happy to have him. We're going to just ask him some questions about his music, what he's influenced by, what he hopes to influence, and
like
stuff
30
like
other
that.
things, yeah. We'll see
like
what
30
comes
other
of it.
things.
Kind of try and keep it conversational, keep it fluid.
So Ryan, why don't we just start with where you live and what the music scene, I guess, is like in Iowa.
Some general introductions.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay, so I'm from originally from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. It's a decent sized town, not as big as Madison, obviously, but it's pretty big. And I grew up, went to all through school there, through high school. Then I actually lived in Wisconsin for a couple years, in Platteville.
And that was for school, right? Didn't you?
It was, yeah. I went to University of Wisconsin Platteville there, doing. Yeah, it was a fun time there. I really I enjoyed the small town atmosphere and everything. And I was doing software engineering there, and then decided that wasn't really for me though. And now I've been in Cedar Falls now for 2 years. I'm going to school here at University of Northern Iowa for business management, and
Cool.
I don't know. I don't really have any hardcore plans to leave now because I really like it here and everything.
Well, that's always nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to travel? Do you want to go to different places?
I do actually. I love traveling. Like I've been to Colorado, I think 3 times in the last couple of years. I have tentative plans to move there eventually, but I don't know when that'll be and everything. But I'm just kind of playing it by ear right now. But
Figure out that whole life thing first.
yeah, exactly. Get everything on track
that's
first.
great.
Yeah.
So how living in the Midwest, nonetheless, Iowa and Wisconsin, how did you get into music? Because I'm actually very curious about this.
Yeah, it's I was gonna touch on that. Like the electronic scene here is almost non-existent.
Right.
Unfortunately. So, which is too bad. But I don't know. It around like I think it was freshman year of high school. I was sitting with a friend in a class, and we were listening to his iPod, like just usual. Like I think I was into rock at the time, so like Breaking Benjamin, 3 Days Grace, stuff like that. And he put on
high school tunes.
Oh yeah, definitely. Diary of Jane, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then a track by Bass Hunter came on. And I was like, what is this? Oh my gosh. I had never heard anything like that before. And he's like, oh, this is like Bass Hunter. This is like music from Europe, like, techno and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is way cool. So I went home and I just started like really delving into it and everything. And I listened to him for a while, and then I got into trance and like old Tiesto back when he was good, and Cosmic Gate and stuff like that, and it just kind of evolved into like Deadmau5 and everything, and it kind of just it's now to the point where I listen to a ton of electronic music and everything. So I guess being in Iowa, it was hard to get into it, but once I did,
Right.
Obviously with the internet and everything, it's easy to find stuff now.
So what do your friends think? I
Yeah.
mean, do they think it's kind of out of the world, so to speak? Just based off of living in Iowa.
Or kind of because electronic music is coming to the forefront and actually has been at the forefront of popular music culture for a while. Is it just kind of accepted now that's is it not so strange now? Because I kind of remember, and I almost mirror your experience kind of falling into the various genres, and even those same artists were the ones that I listened to as I was kind of finding my way into electronic music. These days, is it that slow of a transition, or is it really just
Music pretty much for the most part, especially here in like northern Iowa. So it's to get good like recent electronic music and stuff, like at live local venues, you got to go to certain, there's like a couple clubs here in like in downtown Cedar Falls.
Yeah, where do you go? Are they good? Are they good
They're
these
decent.
clubs?
There's one
Okay.
called Voodoo that's kind
Yeah.
of like the main hub. That's it's kind of more of like a lounge type of
Mm.
club. It gets pretty hopping sometimes, but there's hardly, there's no like big artists or anything that come there. I don't think I've ever seen a big artist come through Cedar Falls in terms of electronic music.
What's the largest you've seen as far as name goes?
Um, I think Arnie, which is a pretty local guy here in Iowa.
You know,
And he's the largest.
I've heard of him.
You have.
You
I
have,
have.
really?
Not.
I have, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I'm friends with a guy that is good friends with him actually, which
Oh,
is
that's
kind of
cool.
cool.
That's
Yeah,
neat. So wait, you have done a show. Have you done a show there?
I have not.
Oh,
No,
okay. Yeah,
I
what's your
just
live set like? Do you have a
I
live
have
set
never
set up?
I have never played live. I have a oh god, I don't even know what brand it is actually. But I recently got a tape deck for my
That's
birthday last year.
Very cool.
So it's a 2 CDJ player and everything. So I'm fully equipped, but
Yeah.
I haven't. I practiced a little bit, but I'm really excited for an opportunity to perform live and everything. But I don't know the first thing about being good at it or how to go about it or anything like that. And then
Yeah, they're hard to get used to.
It's a totally
Yeah.
different experience, especially when your production is so controlled.
Right.
exactly, it's
gonna be interesting
it's
to
a lot
see
more free form.
Yeah.
It is.
It's like
So I want to talk about your music specifically because it's part of a genre that is very well known and very valued by people who are just getting into not only dance but electronic just as a whole. Do you agree with that, or do you find the genres you work with to be more for people who have been listening to electronic and dance for a long time?
I definitely think it's a good mix actually, which
Okay.
is kind of nice. I find that a lot of like, you go to YouTube and everything and like chill step mixes are just blasted left and right, you
Right,
find
Yeah, they
those.
kind of blow up.
Oh yeah, definitely. And
It's good comfort music. It's a good
it is, it's good
place to
like
start.
good studying music, which is
Unobtrusive.
always nice.
Right. And I
Um,
think it's hard to do. And I think that's why for us it was so appealing because I think chill, even though it's very simple, it's very hard to do.
it's hard to
And
mix chill and dance at the same time for sure.
Yeah.
Like even sometimes I'll get like a good melody going or something, or like I'll find a pad that I really like and put some chords with it and everything, and I'm like, okay, perfect. Now let's add some percussion, and it just sounds awful, and I'm just like, oh, it
That's
just
funny.
doesn't fit. And I'm just like, oh, that's a bummer. But
Yeah.
then you got to do a lot of tweaking with it, definitely. And it's a really cool genre, like you said. Like I think there's a lot of influence with new fans because it is dancey, but at the same time, I think there's this huge movement with just more laid back music.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since like festivals with huge acts like Skrillex and Flux Pavilion and everybody
Right.
have been so major and everything for the past like 4 or 5 years, even longer in some places. So I think there's almost a longing for something a little more relaxed and down tempo, and I think that's going to start getting bigger and bigger as the year as the time progresses.
Kind of
Absolutely.
kind of the counterculture to the hype
Yeah.
based music.
Which don't
I
get me
certainly
wrong,
appreciate.
I love Skrillex and all those acts and everything
He's a
like
classic.
that. Oh yeah, but he released a new song actually, Purple Lamborghini, recently that
Oh,
I
really?
really like.
I haven't
Yeah,
heard it yet. I'll have to look it up.
it's with Rick Ross.
Oh boy, Rick Ross.
So if you can, I'm not the biggest fan of Rick Ross, so if you can get past that, then it's awesome.
Cool. Yeah, we'll have to listen to it. I saw that you tweeted something, a video or you retweeted a video that he posted on Twitter.
I did, yeah.
That was a cool video.
It was just him just like dancing to, I don't even know what song it was, but I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah, it's neat. So your production is really good, which is something that Adric and I always look for. It's very important, and it's very hard to find. And we don't mean this in a bad way. With someone with your level of audience, so to speak. So, how much time do you spend mixing a song after you've put it all together and you're happy with it?
Well, one thing that Deadmau5 actually kind of taught me, and then just like I've watched his streams and stuff like that. Is he just kind of mixes it as he goes almost.
Right.
So one thing I do is like when I get a lead that I like, I'll really go into the EQ and get all the mixing and parameters almost to the point where I can say that could be on the final track and be okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
But I definitely spend at least like probably an hour or two after that, after the production's all finished and everything, making sure all the peaks are at the right places and nothing's like overclocking and everything and stuff like that. So
Very cool.
Yeah,
Which-
that's something. I mean, regardless of how you feel about Deadmau5's music, he's really done a lot for the community and
He
done a
has.
lot for aspiring producers and like put content out there specifically to help people who are getting started in the industry
oh yeah.
figure out how to make stuff.
Yeah, which is like the hardest part, like I've been doing this since like September of 2011,
Yeah, yeah.
and like the first 2 or 3 years for almost everybody, there's those prodigies that like a year down the road from starting off they're already a huge hit and everything, but
Right.
for me especially, like that was the hardest part, just like knowing how to do it. And I think it's really
course.
intimidating for a lot of people too.
Yeah, I mean, you get behind that wall of the program and having to work through it and having to learn just how to navigate it because each different production program is a language of its own.
It really
It
is,
is.
yeah. From FL to like Ableton to Logic and everything is just, there's a learning curve with any of those. Even if you're a master at one, you're gonna have some trouble getting, transferring into another one.
And they all mix things differently, and I think that's kind of what you were trying to say.
Yeah.
is that
Yeah,
They export everything differently, even if they're all WAV or MP3.
Mhm.
Everything's a little bit different within the software.
exactly.
I mean, just from my experience of trying to learn different programs, sometimes it can just be a wall of buttons, and like sometimes
Yeah.
the icons are synonymous where you're like, okay, I know that's gonna like drop a marker, and I know that this is gonna do this, but
That's gonna, etc.
sometimes they just do completely different things. Sometimes they'll use the same symbols for different things,
And you'll
just,
click
like,
a button
learning
on
the
accident.
hieroglyphics. Yeah.
And it'll just like mess up your, the whole sound you were going for, and you're just like, oh God, what do I do? How do I go
yeah,
back?
yeah.
So when you sit down to write a song,
Mhm.
do you go into it with an idea, or do you just kind of, just come up with it?
It really, I guess it kind of depends on the day.
Yeah,
Some Sometimes I'll just be like at work or whatever, and think of like a cool like melody, or maybe sometimes I usually don't want to say like I take from things that I see, because
Right.
that doesn't really make sense. You can't translate like a visual to audio directly. But maybe I'll say, oh, in this song I want to go for the feel that you're floating through space, or in this one I want to go like you're in a forest and going on an adventure with your friends or something. And then I'll just kind of, okay, what chords should I use to convey that? And
Okay.
Yeah.
how and then like based off of that, like do I need this to be a lot, do I need the melody to be really relaxed and chilled out, or do I need it to be more present and building and everything, and like more there, I guess, as opposed to ambient and everything. So
Right, because even within your songs that I've listened to, there are significant differences, but you do have your specific sound,
mhm.
which
Yeah.
you kind of describe in your description that's on our website. Is you talk about
I think it's,
all the stages of music you've gone through to get to where you are now.
yeah, which was a huge progression.
Yeah, as it always is, and
Must be
and
very rewarding.
It is actually, like I feel like I'm finally getting into what my actual sound is, which is plenty exciting, of course, but like I started off with trance, and if you listen to any of my old trance tracks, it's just like, what are you doing? But then I got into like progressive house after that, which I still, like SETI and Blood Groove and Kiki's and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
Um,
cool.
I absolutely loved that genre for a while, and I really enjoyed doing that. But after a while, I was like, I don't think this is really what I want to do. and I did worked with some ambient and some future stuff and everything like that. And
Yeah.
I was like, well, I could maybe try mixing those two worlds, and I guess this is the product of that, I would say.
Yeah, and I can imagine it being a really tough thing to find your voice in a genre with many subgenres and with just
Oh
so many
yeah.
people making music in that genre,
Yes.
and finding something that's you.
Yeah.
It's like trying to be another landscape painter in a sea of 20,000 landscape painters. It's impressive that you can, and you feel that in your music where you've got there's always something about it when you listen to it. You're like, oh, I recognize that there's a vein through these songs, even when the tone of it doesn't always feel the same. Even when, as you were saying, like the kind of vibe that you were going for,
Yeah.
doesn't feel the same. It's nice to hear that there's a consistent thesis throughout them.
Throughout each track that
Yeah,
I make and everything. Well,
yeah.
thank you very much.
Hey,
That's
you
really
betcha.
cool of you to say.
Thanks for doing it.
Oh yeah. I love it, so might as
Do
well.
you use FL Studios? I mean, you don't have to say because some musicians don't like to say what they use.
I do use FL Studio, yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm. I've I've never actually messed with any other. I've done a little bit of Audacity,
yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
not really like anything that you
That's
could.
more for like live recording type of
Yeah,
stuff.
more of like a platform for just like you said, recording your own sounds, and then just it's more of like a mixing software, if you will,
Yeah.
as opposed to an actual production software. But yeah, I like I got the demo for FL when I first started out, and after a little while, I was like, okay, this is definitely something I want to purchase, and I really never looked back. Like I've heard people say, oh, Ableton's better, et cetera, et cetera. Logic's this.
It's all relative.
Exactly. Like it's
Yeah.
just I feel like it's just whatever you're comfortable with,
Exactly.
whatever works for you. There's really big producers that still use FL Studio. I know like there's at least a couple on Monster Cat's label that use FL, and
Oh yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So it doesn't really matter how you do it. It's just a matter of
No, it
what.
doesn't. As long as you know the tools that you're working with, it doesn't. And as long as the content that you're producing is quality, it's kind of crazy to say that one of them is holding you back.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm a big believer in like don't fear the person that has done 1,000 tricks one time. Fear the person that's done the same trick 1,000 times.
Yeah.
That's a good saying.
Yeah, it's I had a guy like I've had collabs in the past where somebody will tell me like, oh, you need to get this software so you can like actually take it to the next level, and I'm just like, what do you
Not
mean by that?
necessarily.
And it's
I-
such an abstract concept because it kind of devalues the amount of work that you've put in to get there, to just say, oh, well, if you have this program, that'll be the thing that makes you better.
Exactly. Like I'm the one creating. It's not the program doing the work for me.
Exactly.
Right.
It's just a tool.
Exactly.
Do you
Exactly.
think you will really sit down and seriously try something like Ableton or even Logic?
I definitely would, yeah, if given the opportunity. I I honestly haven't looked into any demos or anything like that. Just because, like I said, I feel like up until recently I hadn't really found my sound, but I guess now that I know really what I'm kind of going for, and like you said, forming like a central thesis and everything, maybe I will get into trying out different softwares and stuff like that. Now that I know, I guess I can just place my sounds better and
Yeah.
know what I'm going for, I guess.
Well, you have
for
that
lack of a better term.
confidence built up over
You
the
do.
one program, and even to like use it to know that you don't want to, to know
Yeah.
that you found the one that works for you, for the genre that you're working in, for your production. Because it's more than anything, it's about workflow. It's about
Yeah.
the kind of workflow that you have and the way that that software either helps or hinders that. And if you found the one that seems to work for your production style, I mean, then
Why change?
Then why change?
Exactly. Just grow it and make it better and better and better.
Exactly.
What is your family think about all of this? Because you come from a small town in Iowa,
Yep.
and you're basically still in the Midwest. You want to get out there more. You want to travel, and you have a really solid foundation, like we've said about
Thank you.
your music. Yeah, of course, man. Well, it shows. I think it's a complete reflection. Everything
Mm-hmm.
reflects in that respect. So yeah, what does your family think? What do they, specifically your parents? I mean, you don't, it doesn't have to be a super deep answer, but I'm just curious as to what they think? Is this pretty new to them as it is to the area you live in?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I guess not really, like you said, focusing more on my parents. My mom is super. I've always been really close to my mom, my dad too, but my mom is super supportive of my music and everything, and I always give her updates on like what I'm working on and stuff, which which sounds kind of cheesy, but
Yeah.
it's
No, that's
I
cool.
she's really important in my life, and I'm really blessed with the fact that she can appreciate what I'm doing and what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, it's so valuable.
It is.
Exactly, yeah. And as far like my extended family kind of knows about it, like my cousins and stuff. My cousin,
I bet they love it.
yeah, uh, they're like I said, there's the country music scene is so big here. They're definitely more into stuff like that and not
Right.
really looking to listen to much of the stuff I create, but still at the same time, there have been a couple that have been like, oh, I listened to your new song and I think it's really cool and stuff. And I'm like, oh,
That's great.
it means a lot. One of my cousins actually does a comic book podcast.
No kidding.
Yeah,
That's super cool.
It is. It is really cool. Yeah, I'm hoping to put an intro together for him at some point. Haven't really gotten around to it yet, but so he's listened to it and stuff like that, and that's just any support from family. If you're listening to this and you're the family of an aspiring musician and stuff, like give them all the support in the world because it's so hard at first to every little bit of feedback counts and everything.
It really does.
Parents are weird. Family is
Parents
weird.
are weird.
They have a weird way of showing support, but usually they do actually love what you're doing.
Yeah,
Well,
like
that's cool.
yeah, it's super cool to have such supportive parents and everything. And like I said, my mom, like my dad kind of knows about it and stuff. He never really asks about it and stuff. He's a sportscaster and everything in Cedar Rapids. So I grew up a ton of athletics and sports. It's still a big part of my life and everything.
Yeah,
but
That's good.
he's more into that channel. So I totally respect the fact that he doesn't get into music as much and everything. But at the same time, I tell him about stuff that I'm working on and everything, and he's like, "Oh, that's neat." So
That is cool. You could write music for ESPN.
it's pretty neat.
Ba, ba, ba.
Yeah.
It might be a different style than what you're working in.
Yes. People would love it. It's good stuff.
I
All
should
right,
do
Ryan.
an
Hey,
ESPN
thanks,
mix.
man, so much for joining us and wanting to do this. It was super cool to actually meet you
Yeah.
and to talk to you.
It was super cool to meet you guys too. It was like, I've listened to your interview with the UW people and everything, and I was like,
Nice.
oh, I can finally put a voice to their face, and everything. But
Yeah.
it was this was a lot of fun. I
Cool,
love this.
Well, hey, thank you so much. We hope that you all enjoyed this second episode of the Vesten Cast. Please join us next week where we interview one of our musicians, Noah, a very close friend of ours and a local from Madison, Wisconsin. For more information on him and our record label, Vesten Records, please visit www.vestenkolokhive.com. Thank you once again, and we will see you next week.